Everyone will see this. My sister mocked me and posted my wedding disaster, stitching clips of me sobbing with snide captions, tagging relatives and coworkers, daring me to lighten up, while the comments called me dramatic and my day completely unraveled. My name's Claire, 28. I've carried myself since college. Saved for my deposit, work in marketing, planned a wedding with Jason without any family donations. But at home there's one constant. My younger sister Ashley, 26. Since childhood her jokes always landed on me. Hid my keys on the day of an interview, posted embarrassing school pics, brought random guests to my birthday. Mom called it teasing. Dad said, "That's just Ashley being Ashley." Translation, I was the safe target. A month before the wedding came a run of pretty humiliations. At my bachelorette, Ashley, accidentally, spilled red wine on my white jumpsuit and instantly blasted stories captioned, "Don't cry, princess, dry cleaning fixes everything." In the family chat she renamed me Bridezilla, then screenshot my private doubts, guest list, budget, and fed them to her audience like content. Jason told me to ignore it. I tried. Big day in Austin, lake venue, 80 guests, string lights, the works. I thought I'd power through. I was wrong. She was just warming up and I was still playing the clown she'd cast years ago. The real hit at 7:12 a.m., a jittery patchwork of my worst angles, soft crying at a fitting, a close-up of my smudged eyeliner, the seamstress opening a seam like a surgeon. Ashley overlaid it with bubblegum captions, "Bride in the Wild," "Microaggressions from Mascara," and, my favorite, "Middle School Bride Energy." She tagged my mother, my cousins, my aunt who thinks Instagram is a search engine, and, for good measure, 3 of my coworkers, including HR. She even used the venue's geotag. By 7:40 my phone was a buzzing beehive. I watched the view counter sprint past 10,000, then 15. Comments multiplied. "So dramatic. Who cries over Tool? LOL red flags. The algorithm did what the algorithm does. Dragged strangers into my kitchen." Meanwhile, a calm email slid into my inbox from HR. "Saw a tag regarding your upcoming personal event. Just checking that everything is okay and that you're comfortable with company visibility." A second later, my boss, with the diplomacy of a Swiss train conductor, "Let's keep personal matters personal, yeah?" I typed back that it was family noise and would be handled. I left out the part where a 26-year-old with a ring light had just turned my wedding into a public service announcement. Vendors followed. The venue manager, Gabriella, polite, iron-spined, called to confirm expectations. Her voice could slice ribbon. "We host family drama all the time," she said. "But the contract prohibits public disruptions that interfere with service. If the content creator," she did not say sister, "incites anything, we enforce the penalty. $8,500. The number chimed like a cash register inside my skull. The DJ texted a list of demands. No open mic, no special guest speeches. A tech who would hover near the board like a bouncer. The makeup artist wrote that she was receiving DMs criticizing her kit hygiene. She attached screenshots with emojis that looked like they'd been scraped off a bathroom wall. The seamstress left a voicemail apologizing for how the internet makes a needle look like a knife. I paced the living room, my veil in a garment bag hanging like a white flag I refused to wave. Ashley DM'd a minute later, a negotiation masquerading as kindness. "I'll delete if you make me maid of honor and give me the speech. Period. No frills." It was extortion in lowercase letters. I sent a single word. "No." It startled me how quiet the room felt after I pressed send. Mom, Linda, jumped into our family chat instantly, as if she'd been holding the starting gun. "It's a joke, relax. Don't you have a sense of humor?" She loved that phrase like it was Windex for messes she didn't want to scrub. Dad Mark added, "Girls enough." The man could have been announcing the weather. My brother-in-law, Trent, sent a shrug emoji from a barstool, probably. Jason, reading over my shoulder, kissed my temple and said, "She'll tire herself out. He is a good man. He also believes fires go out if you stare at them kindly." At noon, the views hit 50,000. Ashley posted a fresh story, a countdown sticker, 2,400 hours until the show. The words throbbed in white over a boomerang of champagne spraying. I watched the timer blink down and felt something inside me stop pleading and start arranging. I'm a marketing manager. I do crisis plans for breakfast. I built a folder on my desktop, wedding_comes. Subfolders, vendors, family, legal, screenshots. I pulled the contract with the venue and highlighted the conduct clause. I wrote a one-pager with bullet points: no open mic, no filming past the aisle, no tagging vendors without consent. I drafted a kind but unyielding email to our guest list about a private ceremony with a phones-down promise until the first dance. Jason signed off on it, squeezing my hand. "Is this too much?" he asked. "It's just enough," I said. 3. Gabriella called back. I walked her through expectation management. My voice steady in a way I'd rehearsed on worse days. She liked the phones-down message and offered 2 extra staffers who were very good at gentle redirection. Security in tuxedos, chaperones for adults. My stomach unclenched by a millimeter. At 5, HR pinged again. "All good? Need any support?" I wrote back that a family member's social media had spiraled and I was actively addressing it. I thanked them for flagging concerns and reiterated that company brand wouldn't be involved in any way. Corporate relief arrived as a thumbs-up reaction, the digital equivalent of "great, don't bring your fireworks to the office." At 6, Ashley turned the screw. She posted a screen recording of our family chat with my "no." She added her own commentary. "Imagine being so insecure you can't let your own sister speak." The DM flood arrived with the tide. Half her followers played jury. The other half recommended therapists they themselves should have met years ago. I muted her. Not blocked, muted. Blocking would have been a declaration. Muting was a lock on a door she wouldn't see. Around dinner, my mother called. "She's just excited," she said. "You know how Ashley is." "Yes," I said. "I do. That's why no speeches." She sighed like I'd failed a test. "Don't you want to show grace?" I looked at my notes. Guest list trimmed by 5 of Ashley's friends she'd attempted to smuggle in as +1s. "Grace is a boundary," I said. She didn't like that sentence. "Fine. But don't make this a thing." The line clicked dead. The thing had already made itself. I sent Ashley a final message. "You are welcome as my sister. You are not welcome as a host, an MC, or a content creator. If you violate that, you'll be escorted out." No exclamation points. No apology. 10 minutes later, she posted a black screen with white text. "Wait for the show." I set my phone face down on the kitchen table and listened to the house hum. Outside, Austin hushed into pink. Inside, the garment bag swayed in the air-conditioning draft, brushing my wrist like a nod. I was not going to be cast as the clown this time. If Ashley wanted an audience, she'd chosen the wrong stage. The morning came in soft and peach, and Ashley arrived dressed like a disclaimer. "It's milk ice," she announced, stepping into the bridal suite in a dress that was white by any human standard except hers. Her hair was scraped into a bun that mirrored mine, even the loose tendrils we'd planned to frame my face. She angled her phone toward the light, thumb hovering. "Going live in 3, 2. My stylist was pinning my veil when Ashley's ring light blinked on. "Follow if you're tired of crowned brides," she said to her audience, not to me. Hearts rose on her screen faster than my pulse. The room adjusted itself around her like furniture around a stain. 10 minutes later, our entrance playlist died midstrum. Instead of acoustic guitar, a heavy bass remix erupted from the speakers, something that made the mirrors tremble. Bridesmaids froze, the makeup artist flinched mid-wing, and Ashley let out a little laugh straight into her live. "Oops, someone likes drama drops." I saw the flash drive on the vanity, our carefully curated tracks replaced with a new label, Fun Mix Fire. No one met my eyes. The bouquet disappeared. We found it 20 minutes later crammed between buttercream tiers in the cake fridge, petals dewy with condensation like they were guilty and sweating. "Who would put it here?" asked one of the venue staff. But we both glanced toward the door Ashley had ghosted through moments earlier. My bridesmaids' phones pinged in unison. Telegram stickers, glossy and cruel. Slid onto their screens. Drama queen. Tears equals content. Control freak alert. Forwarded from the family chat with a caption, Ashley's touch. She's on one today, grinning face with sweat. The ones who loved me looked at the floor. The ones who loved spectacle looked at Ashley's phone. Claire, breathe, said Maya, my oldest friend, placing a steady hand between my shoulder blades. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. I breathed. I remembered a crisis workshop from work. Narrow the frame, name the facts, choose the next smallest right thing. Fact. We had a ceremony in 4 hours. Fact. My sister was mining it like a quarry. Fact. I couldn't outshout a live stream. Next smallest right thing. Control the room. I found Gabriella near the bar counting glassware like it might file a lawsuit. Phones down starts now, I said. Before the ceremony, not only during. Anyone filming gets a gentle tap and a firm smile. If they argue, escort. Gabriella's mouth tipped at one corner. Consider it a quiet opera, she said, and radioed to her staff. 2 tuxedoed servers took up positions like bookends by the French doors. I swapped my veil for a simple comb, a small recalibration that felt like unhooking from a storm kite. This is your face, my stylist murmured, smoothing powder along my jaw. They can't caption your pulse. In the hallway, Mom was practicing an expression between pity and pride. Your sister just wants to be included, she said, eyes on the mirror as if we were sharing a stranger's reflection. She brought a lot of energy today. So did an electrical fire, I said lightly. She winced like I'd been vulgar, not accurate. Jason slipped into the room with the softness that first made me love him. He wore the suit we'd picked on a day that smelled like cedar and plans. How are you? He asked. A person, I said. He smiled with his whole face. Good. That's the one I want to marry. Then the rehearsal mic test started. A harmless hum of sibilants and checks, and Ashley took it as a flag drop. She reached for the mic with practiced ease, phone in the other hand, and spun toward the room. Improv time, she announced. Let's talk about my sister. Our beautiful, perfect. The words perfect and problem arrived in the same sentence. She riffed about my lists, my color-coded calendar, my brand new personality for marriage. Laughter twitched in pockets. Not mean, just relieved to be released from tension. Someone in the back recorded. Of course they did. I unclipped my veil entirely, set it on the vanity, and walked out. The corridor smelled like eucalyptus and white wine. Beyond the French doors, the lake threw light back at the sky, indifferent and enormous. My shoes clicked once, twice. The sound was decisive in the hush. Jason followed, catching up at the hedges. Do we keep going? He asked, searching my face for an answer so we could share it. I thought about vows said into a phone camera, about our first kiss cut by an air horn sound effect, about children one day asking to see our wedding and finding a highlight reel with snide captions instead of the ceremony. We do, I said, but we define going. He nodded, the knot of his tie a small, neat certainty. Tell me how, he said. Phones stay down, I began. No open mic, no improv. If Ashley needs a stage, she can find a sidewalk. We'll move the ceremony forward 30 minutes before the momentum builds again. We go short and human. We'll do vows under the oak, unplugged, and we'll have Gabriella's team be the velvet wall. I paused. And if she tries to make a scene during the vows, we stop. We wait. We don't feed it. Jason exhaled like he'd been holding that breath since sunrise. Okay, he said. I'm with you. He always is. Sometimes a lighthouse, sometimes just warm. We went back in. Gabriella met my eyes and tipped her head. We had a plan. The bridesmaids formed a quiet phalanx around me, the ones who remembered summer jobs and shared rent rather than followers. Ashley stood at the edge of the room, live stream ticker rolling, mouth shaped into a smirk designed for engagement. I set my phone on airplane mode, slid it into the garment bag, and felt the audible click of my attention locking. Outside, under the oak, chairs were already facing the water. The wind lifted the ribbons like they were signaling ships. I walked the aisle alone for the rehearsal, just to feel it, to see if my knees would buckle. They didn't. At the end Jason waited, hands folded, eyes steady. He mouthed a question. "You good?" I nodded. I was a person. When we turned back toward the building, I heard a hush turn into a ripple. Ashley again, inevitably, testing the boundaries we'd just staked. I didn't look. Gabriella did. A tuxedoed server moved with ballroom grace, a hand outstretched, a gentle smile. The mic returned to its stand like a contrite bird. Inside the suite, I fastened my veil again. Not a surrender, a choice, and looked at myself without flinching. Somewhere in the building my sister narrated my wedding to strangers. Somewhere else, my mother drafted a text about keeping the peace. Here, breath by breath, I chose a different script. For the first time that day, I wondered not what kind of family I came from, but what kind I was making. The answer was small and solid as a ring. One that didn't mistake cruelty for humor, noise for love, or a live stream for a life. I walked back with Gabriella and 2 tuxedoed security staff, the kind of men who look like they materialize from contract clauses. I'd already opened a new subfolder, evidence, and I asked, without heat, for one of Gabriella's team to screen record and save Ashley's stories as they expired. We used the venue phone, timestamps, usernames, the whole breadcrumb trail. "For our records," Gabriella said. It sounded like a benediction. Ashley clocked the formation and rotated her camera to catch us. "Here comes the censorship squad," she sang to her viewers, laughter crackling through the comments like popcorn. I didn't ask for the mic. I spoke to my sister the way you speak to a dog who won't get off a couch that isn't theirs. "Ashley, you're done filming. You can stay as a guest under the rules we sent. No recording, no speech, or you can leave. Choose now." She tried the old levers. A theatrical gasp, a glance at Mom, a shrug for the room. Then the true lever, move fast and break something. She sidestepped the security guard with a skater's pivot and tried to slip past me to the arch, phone held high like a torch. I turned to block her path. Her hand shot out, fingers hooking my shoulder, and she yanked. The veil ripped along the seam with a sound like paper surrendering. On her live, the laugh reacts poured in. Yellow faces rolling, a ticker of delight at someone else's ruin. For a second, everything went quiet in me, like a fuse that chooses to save the house. I reached up, removed the veil the rest of the way, and set it on a chair. "Escort her out," I said. Not a shout. A calendar entry. Security did it with choreography. One hand on the door, one open palm to guide. Ashley wriggled for the camera, narrating, "She's attacking me." Which would have been funny if not for how familiar it felt. Mom sputtered, "Claire, please." As if I were throwing furniture instead of maintaining a rule she'd watched me write. Dad stared at his shoes, which had never hurt anyone. The photo team put their cameras down. "We can't proceed under active cyberbullying that names our business," the lead said quietly, showing me a comment where Ashley had tagged them with cheap lens, cheap service. Contractually, they were right. They were out. The DJ, having witnessed the ripped veil, nodded to me and powered down. A sound like air leaving a bouncy castle stole through the room. Gabriella moved into procedural mode. She took photos of the torn veil, the mic stand, the phone on live. She drafted an incident report on a clipboard with the speed of someone who'd completed this drill. "Per Clause 7C, she said, "we'll be retaining the disruption penalty." $8,500 printed itself behind my eyes again, but this time it arranged into columns. What we would lose, what we would save, what we would build. I stepped onto the little platform we'd meant to stand on for vows. "Everyone," I said, and dozens of faces tilted like sunflowers. "We're pausing today. We'll be moving the ceremony to City Hall on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Quiet, phones down. We'll email details. If you love us, come. If you love content more than you love us, don't." A murmur. Surprise, relief. A hiss of gossip punctured by a few clean yes from the people who had always loved me without choreography. Ashley, half carried toward the doors, shouted, "Should have chilled," into her camera. The phrase went up on her feed within minutes. A clip looped with party fonts and a siren sound effect. The comments descended like starlings. Aunt Debbie, who measures virtue in casserole dishes, wrote that I'd shamed the family by making a scene at a celebration. Uncle Rich, professional fence-sitter, advised that I meet the younger halfway, as if halfway between respect and humiliation were a safe middle. My phone pulsed with the kind of incoming heat you can mistake for importance if you're lonely. Mom called. "Delete your post and we'll fix it," she said, as if I'd unbolted the doors and let the storm inside. "We?" I asked. "You and the daughter you're parenting like she's still 12? She inhaled sharply. "You've always been so intense." "I've always been clear," I corrected. "There's a difference." She crossed the line. "There are consequences." I opened Instagram, not to watch her, to speak for myself. I posted a single slide in serif type on a neutral background. "Bullying isn't humor. Boundaries aren't tantrums. We'll celebrate our marriage at City Hall on Tuesday. Phones down. If you need a spectacle, we're not your show." Underneath, I added the venue's incident case number with their permission, time, date. The phrase, "documented interference." I disabled comments. The message wasn't a debate. It was a sign on a closed road. Then the counterattack moved from public to practical. I emailed our guests, new plan, new address, short and simple. I CC'd the vendors with thanks and grace, offering to pay balances due per contract and asking for invoices with itemized notes referencing the incident number. The florist wrote back first. "We'll repurpose your flowers for Tuesday. No additional charge." The makeup artist, who'd been demed slurs by people with cartoon avatars, offered to meet me at 7 a.m. "Because you didn't flinch when it got ugly," she wrote. The DJ said he'd bring a tiny speaker for a quiet first dance on the courthouse steps. I sent Ashley one final message, not delivered because she'd blocked me to keep narrating from a safe distance. "You're still my sister. You're not my stagehand. The difference is permanent." I saved a PDF of the message for my records. Screenshots filed themselves in my folder, timestamps like little anchors on a windy day. By late afternoon, the building exhaled. Guests drifted to cars. Someone's kid chased bubbles under the oak, oblivious to plot. Gabriella handed me a copy of the report and squeezed my shoulder where the fabric had torn. "You did the right thing," she said, and it didn't feel like praise so much as orientation. Jason found me near the cake fridge, where my bouquet had earlier sweated. He touched the ripped seam with 2 fingers, tender as triage. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's a veil," I said. "It's replaceable." "We're not." He nodded, eyes bright and clear. "Tuesday," he said, testing the word. It sounded like a promise disguised as a weekday. That night, Austin glowed in its usual scatter of neon. At home, I pinned the torn veil to a hanger with 2 silver clips, not as a wound but as a receipt. I sent HR a short update. There had been a documented incident, the event was rescheduled, no company brands involved, and attached the case number because that's how you talk to institutions. Then I sat at the kitchen table, folded the day into folders, and let silence grow back in the places where noise had been living rent-free. On Ashley's page, the clip cycled, "Should have chilled." The chorus for people who confuse avoidance with kindness. On mine, one card sat still, unarguable. Tuesday waited like a clean plate. 2 days later, I woke up to a bland little message from Apple that rearranged my pulse. "Your Apple ID sign-in has been attempted from a new device near Round Rock, Texas." Round Rock, Ashley's apartment. My phone buzzed again. "If this wasn't you, your account is secure. 2-factor authentication prevented access." Secure, yes, but it wasn't about the password. It was about intent. Ashley wanted the originals. The unedited wedding photos stored in iCloud. The ones where I was still composed, still smiling. Erasing them would have made her version the only version left. I made coffee with hands that didn't quite obey. Then I opened a new folder, Legal. Inside went a PDF of the Apple alert, screenshots of her should have chilled, clips, the venue's incident report, and a short log of timestamps. My attorney, Julia Crane, a woman who weaponizes politeness, called within the hour. "We'll go formal," she said. "Police report for attempted unauthorized access, plus a civil notice. We're not playing ping-pong with comments anymore." By noon, we'd filed a police report online, attaching metadata and the IP location Apple listed. Julia drafted a defamation and takedown demand, the tone precise and merciless. Paragraph 1 cited the false and malicious public portrayal. Paragraph 2 quantified damages, $3,200, vendor penalties, forfeited deposits, and replacement services. She told me to print, sign, and sleep. A boundary, she said, isn't real until there's paper on it. That afternoon, HR summoned me. Because of the tags, the email read. The words had all the warmth of an empty elevator. I dressed like a spreadsheet, neutral, ironed, steady, and walked into the small conference room where my manager and HR rep waited. They gestured to a printout. Ashley's Real. Company name highlighted in yellow where she'd tagged my employer with Bride's company doesn't respect family. Can you give context? My HR rep asked, in the tone reserved for pending disasters. I slid the venue's incident report across the table, followed by Julia's memo and the police filing. Their posture changed mid-page, from suspicion to something like shock. So this was targeted harassment, the HR rep said. Documented, I replied. By the end of the meeting, they decided to issue a quiet internal reminder. Don't engage with personal posts, support your colleagues privately. It was bureaucratic empathy, but still empathy. My inbox filled by the hour. Coworkers DMing things like, saw what she did, so sorry, and you handled it with grace. The ones who'd laughed in comment threads were suddenly invisible. At 6, there was a knock at my apartment door. Mom and Dad. No text, no warning. Just their silhouettes through frosted glass, like a visitation. Mom started before I could speak. We're your parents. Families don't do this. I stepped aside just enough for politeness, not invitation. Families, I said, don't do what Ashley did either. Dad raised his hands, peacemaker mode. She's your sister. You've gone too far. Lawyers? Police. I opened the door wider, not for them to enter, but for the gesture to end. Today they do, I said quietly, because silence is how we got here. Mom's eyes filled, but not with understanding. Only disbelief that her eldest daughter was no longer the family's buffer. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it until the latch clicked, a sound softer and more final than anger. I made tea, watched the amber swirl, and let the apartment settle back into its rightful stillness. An hour later, my phone vibrated in a last-ditch encore. A group text from Ashley, 30 numbers deep. Claire canceled her wedding because she's jealous of me, face with hand over mouth, nail polish. The emoji parade. The narrative reset. Replies dripped in, OMG what? And that's so sad if true. A few of my relatives added hearts, because people love sides more than facts. I didn't argue. I didn't clarify. I didn't feed it. I turned on Do Not Disturb, blocked her number, and deleted the group chat. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was structured, like a room finally cleared of smoke. Julia texted once more before midnight. Serve notice tomorrow. Rest tonight. I muted even that notification. The world could wait until morning. For the first time in weeks, the air inside my apartment belonged only to me. No alerts, no audience, no applause for cruelty. Just the hum of the fridge, the distant pulse of Austin traffic, and the slow, deliberate act of reclaiming my peace. 6 months later, we married in a backyard that smelled like sun-warmed sage. Friends in Santa Fe offered their place. A low adobe wall, string lights, a sky that turned copper at the edges like a well-loved pan. 14 chairs, 1 guitar, no aisle runner, no microphones. Before we began, we handed a wicker basket around. Everyone placed their phones inside like coins in a fountain. The clatter was gentle, almost ceremonial. Our friend Lucia played Harvest Moon, with the kind of tremor that comes from meaning every note. I said vows I'd written on a grocery list because life and groceries are inseparable. Jason slipped a ring on my finger that had belonged to his grandmother, a circle already tested by years. When we kissed, there was no cheer, just a hush like the world holding its breath and deciding to keep us. The photos from that night are warm in a way only unposed things are. Static curls, crooked chairs, laughter caught mid-tilt. In one, a moth schemes past the lantern and makes the frame look dusted with gold. Our first dance was in the dirt. My dress picked up the day and kept it. When the guitarist packed up, a neighbor clapped from over the wall, the kind of applause that belongs to no platform but the air. On the other front, paper, signatures, consequence, the court approved a settlement in early autumn. Julia stood next to me in a hallway with pulp art landscapes and a humming vending machine. The order read like a recipe for limits. Videos deleted within 7 days. A written acknowledgement that statements about me were false. Reimbursement of costs, $3,200, itemized like a receipt for disrespect. Completion of a digital ethics course through a nonprofit that still believes the internet can be taught manners. No admission of guilt. Law prefers choreography to confession, but the results spoke in past tense. Her sponsors bailed that same week. A few issued statements full of community values. Mostly, they just vanished. The algorithm, bored of a hammer without a nail, moved on. Her views cratered. It turns out that even audiences trained on humiliation get tired when the target stops performing. Holidays snuck up wearing cinnamon. For the first time in my adult life, I did not rehearse for my family. I did not practice neutral phrases in the mirror. We stayed home for Thanksgiving with strays, coworkers without flights, a neighbor whose chemo made travel complicated, Lucia with her guitar because tradition should be portable. We passed dishes and names like gifts. When conversation hit the soft tissue of the year, it didn't turn into sport. It just softened. After pie, Jason and I stepped onto the balcony and listened to the city think. Quiet is louder when you finally let it in. Sometimes doubt visits on purposeful feet. At night, lavender steaming in a mug, I'd catch myself whispering, "Was I too harsh?" The brain loves to call clarity cruelty if it threatens old arrangements. Then memory returns unbidden, like a careful witness. The sound of Tool giving way in a stranger-filled room. A live chat blooming with laughter that weighed nothing and landed like a stone. My mother's relax wielded like a nightstick. I don't have to stay angry to remember what happened. I only have to stay awake. The family recalibrated on their own clock. Dad sent a text in November. Saw the pictures. You looked happy. Proud of you. 6 words plus a period. More punctuation than he'd given most conflicts in our home. Mom mailed a card in December. A snowman embossed like a coin. Inside, "Hope you'll come by. We can learn." The ellipsis did not apologize for her. It didn't need to. It marked a space where she had always filled silence with excuses. I called and said we could start with tea with boundaries. She said yes. That afternoon, she texted a photo of 2 mugs on their table. No people. Improvement has a small face. Ashley sent a letter in January on notebook paper with a torn edge. It was not a performance, no font, no filter. The first paragraph was an "I'm sorry if." The second tried again. The third, smaller, finally found the spine of it. "I liked how it felt to have a crowd, and I forgot you weren't a prop." She said she would complete the course. She said she would stop filming family. She said she would understand if I didn't want to hear her voice for a while. I read it twice and put it in a drawer next to warranties, the things you keep so you can look them up if they break. I wrote back 2 sentences. "Thank you for saying it. We both need distance. The door is not locked. It's just closed. Forgiveness can be a hallway without a deadline." I didn't abandon my family. I stopped underwriting their favorite pastime. In our house now, relax does not mean be quiet while I harm you. Humor involves consent. Boundaries are not a tantrum, they are furniture. You can bruise yourself on them, but you can also sit. Jason and I keep a small rule taped inside a kitchen cabinet where only we see it. No audience we didn't invite. No script we didn't write. When friends come over, they put their phones in the same basket we used in Santa Fe. People smile when they do it as if relief has a muscle memory. The veil? I had it repaired and framed. It hangs in the hallway, thread like a pale fault line running diagonally. Visitors think it's abstract art. It is. The art of a line drawn and kept. On clear nights, we walk past the courthouse where we almost married and then did in a different way. Sometimes a couple stands on the steps, Nervous, floral, brave. We give them the sidewalk and the sky. We go home to our quiet, where every room knows our names and none of them echo. Quiet peace is the best wedding gift. No registry carries it. No guest can buy it. You only get it when you refuse to sell yourself for applause. We gave it to ourselves and we keep giving it back. Each morning we choose the life that doesn't trend, the love that doesn't perform, the rules that end the scandals before they begin.